The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. My name is Tracy Nyer, and I'm with the Virginia SBDC. I'll be your facilitator for today's webinar. For those of you who are not familiar, the Virginia SBDC is the largest and most effective provider of customized counseling and education for small businesses in Virginia. Most of our services are offered locally in 27 locations throughout the Commonwealth. Today's webinar is one of our educational offerings and is part of our ongoing webinar series, Google and Beyond, Marketing and Managing on the Web. Today's topic is Instagram Advertising 101, how to create effective ad campaigns on Instagram. All of our Google and Beyond webinars are presented by Ray Sidney Smith, a web and mobile strategist, author of Solo Mo Success, Social Media, Local and Web Small Business Marketing Strategy Explained, and president of W3 Consulting. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type those into the question window, and Ray will do his best to answer them. Without further ado, here's Ray Sidney Smith.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you to the Virginia SBDC for having me here on the webinar series. As Tracy said, in the question panel is where you can ask questions, and she will interrupt me if necessary to get your questions answered. Otherwise, I'll leave time at the end today so that we can answer all of your questions that you might have. And if you have questions later, I will have my email address on the final slide, so feel free to email me, and I'll be happy to direct you to a resource if I can't answer the question myself. And as always, I am a Twitter fan, and so I spend a lot of time on Twitter, so feel free to tweet at me at W3 Consulting, hashtag it beyond Google, and I'll know it's about one of the webinars, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Also follow at Virginia SBDC, and that just encourages them to use Twitter. But the other side is that you can keep up to date in terms of the information they're putting out and updates regarding upcoming webinars and other programs that they're putting on throughout the Commonwealth. So always good. Today we'll be talking about Instagram advertising. This is kind of the basics, what you need to know in order to be able to put your first Instagram ad out there. Instagram actually makes it very easy for you to do so, but you are required to use the Facebook Ads Manager platform to do that. So there's a little bit of complication in just getting your way around the interface and using the ads manager to do so. They have started to add integration into the mobile application, and maybe a future webinar will actually show how to do that in the mobile setting once that interface is really ready for prime time. But for the most part, we're going to go through the desktop version of it to show you how to do that today. So we're going to talk about how to set up an Instagram ad account. I'll go through the basics of what is necessary in order for you to be able to have an Instagram advertising campaign. We're then going to identify your first Instagram ad campaign goal and target audience so that you can kind of ideate what it is that you want to do and why you would want to advertise on Instagram in the first place. And then we'll talk about the structure of your Instagram ad campaign so that you can kind of understand it. I'm going to take you into the interface and we'll kind of set up that first ad so you can see what it's like to go ahead and do so. Okay, so you can see what the numbers look like and see what the ads look like in their native format in the preview section. And as I said before, I'll leave a little bit of time at the end for Q&A, and I'll answer any questions that you might have as we make our way along there. So let's start with the reality that Instagram is currently the third most active social network on the internet today, on the World Wide Web specifically. And so we have 1 billion monthly active users, which is remarkable. It's only paled in comparison by YouTube and Facebook, and of course Instagram is Facebook owned. So there's probably a lot of reasons why there's such a strong Instagram force behind it, because Facebook is obviously supporting its growth. And one of the things that I wanted to kind of immediately point out to everybody is that if you're an Instagrammer, you're likely also a YouTuber and a Facebooker. That is, if you're an Instagram user, you have 95% of those Instagrammers are also YouTube users, and 91% of those are Facebook users. So don't lose sight of the fact that just because a social network is dominant in the space, that doesn't mean that they aren't using other tools to connect with and share and commune online. And this is really important for you to take it to heart as a business, because as you're out there and you're deciding to advertise, remember that the advertising needs to fit into the overarching multi-channel marketing strategy that you're working on, or a multi-channel advertising strategy that you're working on if it's only advertising. And I'll talk a little bit about the perils of only advertising momentarily. But the idea here is you really do need to be aware that if you are going to have any other channels being used, that they have a consistent brand message, and so that any interactions you have with your audience and across those channels need to be consistent, because they're on all of them in essence, right? You know, if I'm on Instagram, I'm also on YouTube and Facebook, and so if I have an interaction and I see a post on your Facebook account and it's completely obtuse to what you're doing in terms of your ads on Instagram, that's gonna rub me the wrong way. I'm not gonna really understand what you're trying to convey if you're sending me mixed signals, okay? Also, for those of you who are B2B, I wrote this in the description for the webinar, and I just wanted to make people aware that 2/3 of US businesses use Instagram right now, which is remarkable, more than 71% currently. And that means that if you are B2C, you are in good company, because there are many consumers who are using the tool, right? You have 2 billion, a billion plus monthly active users. But if you're B2B, you also are in good company, because all of those businesses that are out there trying to reach consumers are also on Instagram using the platform. And so you can actually get in touch with and grow your business by advertising to those business profiles as well. So very, very powerful stuff there. In addition, Instagram is currently at a place where you have about 2 million monthly advertisers who are using the platform. Now, with the size of Instagram, that means that there's still a huge growth opportunity for Facebook to increase the number of ads that Instagram shows to users. So I probably personally feel like I'm at the right amount. Maybe my business profile, the W3 consulting profile, I get a little too many ads in that profile, but it knows it's a business profile, so it's going to show me more ads. And I don't follow as many people on my Instagram profile as I do on my business profile as I do on my personal profile. So I can see why I see more ads. But from Facebook's perspective, everything they put out to potential advertisers is basically saying there's a lot of room to grow for people who want to advertise. So dissimilar to Facebook, where advertising and the whole auction system, which I'll explain shortly, is much more competitive, the Instagram space is still nascent, and so you have the ability to really get in front of a lot of people at a lower cost today than you will probably in 18 to 36 months from now. So good time to kind of get in and start buying ads. I wanted to show the difference between the ads currently, and so I wanted to just show you two types of ads. The first one is, this is a screen recording of Instagram, and this is what in this case a video ad looks like. It's an animated video, and it's from Instagram, and you can see here that this video ad is Instagram's sponsored post, and you know that it's a sponsored post because if you just go up to the top here, you can see that it shows sponsored right below the user profile, okay? And I'm going to play this again. If you click on the three dots icon, that's the overflow or the options button, you'll see that you have the option here to go ahead and hide, report, or learn more about Instagram ads. You can turn on and off audio down here in the lower right-hand corner, and then there's the call to action button, okay? Now, just as a way of contrast, let's look at the other ad I have here. Let's just expand that. This is a screenshot of an advertisement by Google, and you can see here that Google has decided to have just a normal small landscape ad, and it's been shrunk down because it's vertical, you're panning vertically on Instagram on a mobile device typically. And so you see that it's shrunk down. Their call to action is subscribe. This is a static image and it just says Get Fi, which is Google's phone plan. And I want you to take a moment to take notice of the difference in experience between what Instagram did and showing me their ad. Video movement, you had the soccer player jumping around and showing her skills, and on top of that, what Instagram was really advertising was a new functionality that they added to the Instagram tool. But you were captivated, hopefully, by the video and brought into it. It was full screen, and so you didn't see anyone else's stuff in essence. But here, you can see that, one, I can see my comment field box from the prior post, and if I scrolled up just a little more, I'd probably be able to see part of the post as well. Here, I follow the hashtag small business on Instagram, so I see a post from the small business hashtag starting to appear below it. And so I see mostly this in my screen. This whole, maybe subscribe is taking some of my attention, but then I see all of the likes and the start of the comments from the ad. The ad doesn't actually speak to me. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of compare and contrast here to start thinking about how you're filling up the screen when someone sees an advertisement, and the importance of being able to do that in making your ads useful to your business, that is effective. So the ultimate goal for you is to get that person to engage with the ad in the way in which you want them to, which is the call to action. So that's my first thing for you to think about, is just how is the ad going to look? What's the point of the ad that you're creating, and what is the experience from the user? And that means that you should actually go out there and go play around with the ads. Like, scroll through your timeline, your feed, your Instagram feed, and look at the ads and look at the ones that will get you to do something. And those are the types of ads you then want to create. And so then you can reverse engineer it for your own purposes. Okay, well, I like ads where I can see a story, a narrative that unfolds. So there are multiple images that kind of take me through the story. And so voila, you now need a carousel ad, and I'll explain that in a little bit as well. So the idea here is to start figuring out what the visuals are and the nature of what you're trying to get people to do, and going from there. The other point I wanted to make at this juncture is to say that your best content that you put onto Instagram or onto other social networks, that is, are really great sources for ads. And so that means that you actually have to start thinking about if you're doing native ad on social media, right? Because that's what these are. These are what we call native ads. That is that they're basically posts, and they are showing up in the feed. So they should look like content. And what better way to look like content to get people to engage than for it to actually be real content? It's why Facebook has the boosted post concept, because they know that if your post does well with your audience and you boost that post or you promote that post, then it's already hopefully good content that's going to engage people beyond just your normal audience better. And that means more people are going to convert and do what you want them to do. Second, I don't know if that's my second point, but my third or fourth point here is you need to have a call to action. I mean, so many of these ads that I see being put out there that are falling flat on their face have no clear call to action. And while it's a requirement of the system for you to be able to do that, there's sometimes a misalignment. I actually happen to think that Google has made a mistake here in having this subscribe button as the primary call to action for their phone plan. Yes, I know they want me to subscribe, but if you don't know Google and their phone plan, Google Fi, and you want to get to know a little bit more about it, you don't usually, on a mobile device, I mean, like, think about it. you're already on a mobile device, which means you have a phone or a mobile device, but most likely you're on your phone, which means you already have some kind of internet service or phone plan or whatnot. So what's going to get me to change my phone plan as I'm scrolling through Instagram? It's got to be something of a little bit more value than, hey, just come subscribe, right? So you need to overcome that challenge of, okay, I'm going to show you content, but now what is it the thing that I want you to actually do? Is it something intermediary between buy from me right now and interact and engage with my content, or interact and engage with my content followed by buy from me now? There's usually a middle ground there. And I think a lot of small businesses have not figured that part out, which is, how do I get you from just the lead, which is I'm advertising to you, so you see my ad. Oh, great, you're top of the funnel, you're a lead, you're now someone who's in my target audience because you're seeing my ad, and I've hopefully effectively targeted you, and you're not yet ready to buy from me because you don't know, like, or trust me. So what's the meat that's going to get me closer to you in relation, and then there's a purchase opportunity. So for me, a lot of times it's having to educate businesses about that middle ground. And so I say just take some time to think about what happens in the middle between them seeing your ad, what the appropriate call to action is, because it's likely not buy now unless it's a commodity product where people can actually just click on something and buy it now, fine. But for most of us, we need a little bit of love. We need a little bit of romance with the business before we're going to buy. So what's the romance that you can provide to a user of Instagram to get them to come over? Okay, so those are my thoughts on the ads, and I hope that was helpful. Okay, so next up is setting up your Instagram account. And so there are a number of different things that you need to do in order to be able to put an ad onto Instagram. And I just wanted to cover those very briefly. And so here, so I wanted to cover very quickly, you have to have a business profile in order to be able to have an Instagram profile. One of the quick ways in which you'll know that you have an Instagram profile is if you are on your own profile, if you're looking at your profile, you will see the buttons that show a call to action. So here I have call and email as the options for people to engage with us. So that's a pretty quick way in which you can know that you are an Instagram business profile. And while the other image isn't here, I'll describe it. The idea here is that when you click on the settings button, the overflow icon, or the more options button, the 3 bars, you'll be popped out, and you'll see the options there. What should appear is a list. One of them will say business, and that's a pretty good indicator that you have an Instagram business profile. Okay, so you have to have the Instagram business profile in order to do that. I'll walk you through what that means shortly. Instagram ads and Facebook ads are pretty much the same thing. So you can activate them in whatever way. So in essence, you have to have an Instagram profile in order to use the Facebook Ads Manager platform and therefore put out Instagram ads. And an Instagram business profile, in essence, means you open up Instagram for the profile that you have created for the business. You go over to the more options, and then there's an option that says, switch to business profile. You click on that button, and it's going to ask you to connect to a Facebook page. So if you have a Facebook page associated with your business already, you will just log into Facebook and connect to that Facebook page. If you do not have a Facebook page for it, I highly recommend that you go to a desktop and set up the Facebook page the way it should be, and then come back and connect them. But it will facilitate the creation of a Facebook page for you if you're in a rush. So if you don't have a Facebook page, the Instagram profile settings will say, okay, create a Facebook page. It will create that Facebook page and then pair the two of them. Henceforth, those the Instagram profile, the business profile, and your Facebook page are now linked to one another. And that way you can see all of that within the Facebook Ads Manager platform. Make sense? Okay. From that point, you then need to set up your Facebook Ads Manager account, and I'm going to take you over there momentarily, and I'm going to walk you through the interface just so you can kind of get that all squared away. But the requisite point is that you have to have that business profile and page connected, and then you can go over the Facebook Ads Manager and now manifest the ad campaign. Okay, so let me walk you through the interface just because it can be a little bit of confusing some of the time. So I'm inside of my personal account, so that I can walk you through without showing you anything for privacy reasons. It's a blank account. So here in the primary interface, once you create the Facebook the Instagram business profile and your Facebook page, you can now come over to the Instagram Facebook Ads Manager by going to facebook.com/ads/manager. And that will take you here. If you don't already have a Facebook account, it will walk you through the process. It will facilitate you creating a new Facebook account. So what is a Facebook account? An account is basically related to your company. So if you have one company, you would have one account for that company, and that would hold all of your Instagram ads. It would actually hold all of your Facebook ads as well, and any Facebook Messenger and any other Facebook-owned ads that you're doing. And so the idea here is that you have this one account to manage them all. If you had multiple businesses, then you would create separate accounts for each business. So in general, that's the structure, is that each company is managed by a single account. So that's why we have this account overview tab. Then we come over to the next level, and the next level are campaigns. And campaigns are ways to track against specific goals that you have in the business. So if you wanted to have particular goals around a brand awareness or other kinds of things, I'm going to talk about that shortly as well. But the idea here is that you have different types of goals for the business, then campaigns are going to help you control for that. You might also break up campaigns based on specific brands. So say your company has multiple brands, maybe multiple divisions within the company, you would use the campaigns as the next hierarchy down to structure that, to keep those pieces connected together. In essence, Facebook is giving you 3 tiers to hold your content. The account level is the business, and then the next 2 tiers are campaigns and ad sets. And the campaigns help hold the highest level for you structure, and then ad sets hold the next level of structure, which are the actual ads themselves. So these are groupings of ads themselves, and typically for us, we use ad sets for target groups. So if we have different audiences from which we're trying to manage a specific campaign, we want to see ad sets that specifically match those audiences. Okay, so for example, we have a campaign that is a brand awareness campaign, and we're trying to get our brand to, our client's brand to as many people as possible in Virginia. And so throughout the Commonwealth, we have this brand awareness campaign, but inside of that, we might have several ad sets, and each of those ad sets are going to cover things like, let's say, female business owners 35 to 55 and in a specific region, so say Northern Virginia. Well, that will be an ad set. And so all the ads associated with that specific demographic, that target audience, is going to fall inside that ad set. And then we might have male business owners 35 to 55 who live in Northern Virginia. And then we might have the same thing, but now the variable that changes will be Central Virginia, or the Panhandle area, or whatever it might be, right? So you have these different ad sets that really help you control for audience and the types of audience you're trying to reach. Now, this is all flexible, so you get to make the choice as to how you structure your hierarchy. So campaigns may hold a division of the company as opposed to brands or specific product sets. You might decide that you want to use your ad sets to control for those things. Just you make that decision. My only recommendation here is that once you start that process, you don't change, because if you change, then once we get to reports, things are going to start to get a little muddy because you're not going to be able to slice and dice the data very easily, because you're going to have part of your campaigns and ad sets with one particular view of the world, and then your other campaigns and ad sets will have another view of the world, and so therefore it's going to be like apples and oranges looking at each other. Okay, and then we go down to our final level, which are the actual ads. And here, while I said again this is an empty account, you would have all of your various ads here and what's currently happening with them. The ones that are active will show here, so you can see what are the active ads and what's going on with them. Okay, and I'm going to walk you through creating an ad a little bit later. Okay, so that's the interface. Let's talk about a couple other things once you come here for the first time, because I think it's useful. And I know that we also did a little bit of this overview, which is why I'm not going through it in super detail, but we did a Facebook Advertising 101 webinar. So if you really want a little bit more in depth in terms of this interface, head over to that one and watch the webinar archive for the Facebook Advertising 101 when you have a chance. Okay, so in the interface though, you have the Ads Manager navigation button here. Again, the 3 bars icon. I always call it the More menu or the overflow menu. And if you click on that, you get the option of 4 different things. The pixels, we're not going to talk about that, but here we're in the Ads Manager, and then you have audiences and images. If you click on audiences, this is where you're actually taken to be able to set up your various types of audiences. And so it's good just to kind of cover this here. So in the Facebook ecosystem, just as in this case Instagram, you're capable of identifying your target audiences based on different groups. And if it ever appears, I will describe them to you. But the first group is, in essence, your custom audience. And the custom audience is people who have, you're basically showing your ads to people who have already shown an interest in your product, service, in your brand itself. So you can create custom audiences from your own databases of information. So say you have an email list. Well, you can put that email list into the Facebook Ads Manager, and it will then say, you know these people already. We can identify these people by whatever information you've given them to be able to do so, say an email address or a phone number, even though Facebook says they don't use them, names, areas where they live, that kind of thing. And now you can display ads to those people, or you can say, don't display ads to these people. So for example, if I have a MailChimp list or Constant Contact email list, and I have a database of people who have unsubscribed from my email list, I will actually create a custom audience and exclude that custom audience for people who have unsubscribed from my newsletter. Why? Because they've shown a disinterest in my business, and I don't want to show them ads because they're not interested in my business. Does that make sense? You want to be able to not use your advertising dollars on people who don't want to see you, and that's going to increase the overarching success of the business. We can actually also do this with lookalike audiences. So down under here is lookalike audiences, and lookalike audiences in essence means that you get to take your custom audience from the data that you know about your current people, right? So if I upload a database of 100 people, and those 100 people, Facebook looks at them and they identify their interests, their age, their other demographic information, maybe their job titles that they have published on Facebook, and now they have a pretty good idea about who it is that buys from me. Now they can say, okay, well, who are other people on Facebook who are similar to the people who buy from me? And so then they can now show a much more thoughtful and accurate view of the people beyond the people who are on my custom audience who would potentially be interested in buying from me. And again, I can use my custom audience to say, in that lookalike audience, if any of these people show up, I don't want you to show my ad to them. So we can exclude people who are in our custom audience as much as we can include them. And that's my point, okay? And then we can save audiences. So if you spend a lot of time, just choosing just the right demographics and the people with the right interests and behaviors, and you want to be able to just have these very specific niche group of people, which I highly recommend, you can then save that audience here in the audiences section of the Facebook Ads Manager, so that when you put out another Instagram ad, you are now showing it only to those focused group of people. So say you have 10,000 people who are in a particular region, and those are your ideal customers. You absolutely know that those are the only people you want to show these types of ads to. You can then set those ads to only show to that saved audience. And every time you create a future ad, you just select that audience, that saved audience, and you've saved yourself the time of having to recreate that every time. So if you have a very specific audience, then the niche can be saved and you're good to go. Okay, under images, you have access to all of the content and images that are inside your Facebook pages. So if you have uploaded anything to your Facebook page or pages, that content is now there and is available for you to source into your Instagram ads, as well as any images or content you've uploaded to Instagram are now in images and available to upload to the ads. My understanding is that it takes some time after you've paired your Instagram business profile to the Facebook page for this all to happen. So if anybody comes across an issue or for some reason that's not working, let me know. I'm always curious whether or not that's the case. So you have your images database there, and so you can upload images, put your creatives there, and have them all ready for you. Okay, I'm going to leave the platform here now so we can cover a couple of pieces about, I think I covered account structure, but I want to go back to it just momentarily, and then we'll talk about a couple other things regarding that. All right, let's go back to the slide deck here. Right, so the basics of the Facebook ads for Instagram are you have to have business profile, set up the account manager, ads manager account, and then, and we've talked about this already, but you want to plan your advertising goals so that you can understand what you really want to do. I'm going to show you that in a moment. Let's actually go over there. So let's do this. Wonderful. Okay, so you have 3 different real umbrella pieces for Instagram so that you can identify goals. Now, when we talk about goals, what we're really talking about is, are we driving people from those ads? Are we showing people those ads for just awareness, knowing that the business exists? Are we trying to get people to do something specific as it relates to the content we're producing? So maybe we want people to visit our website and consume more content. Maybe we want someone to view a video which is going to educate them about an upcoming event that we have at our business, or if we have an upcoming event or an event planner, that kind of thing. And the amount of people who can see the content. So that's reach, but also what and how often those people consume that type of content. So we want to be able to increase the frequency of that reach as well. And then finally is conversion. If we want someone to do something very, very specific, we then can get into more complex types of conversions. If you're doing website conversions, then I would highly recommend that you learn about the Facebook Pixel. And if you go into business.facebook.com and go into the section that talks about the Facebook Pixel, you'll have to implement the Facebook Pixel, but then you can start to figure out how to do website conversions and tracking those website conversions. But you can also do, if you have a mobile application, you can do mobile app installs as a conversion, campaign. All kinds of goals can be created, but these are ultimately the types of campaigns. The items that are checked here, I'm not quite sure it's very high resolution, high contrast for you to be able to read, but the various things that are checked here are basically the types of campaigns that you would run. So in essence, you would run, say, under awareness, a brand awareness campaign and that brand awareness campaign would then would have several ad sets, and each of those ad sets would target a specific demographic. And so your audience would then be identified as ad sets, and then ultimately you would have your ads that land inside of those ad sets. So we have the campaign level, and you have to choose what it is that you want your business to have in terms of goals for the ads before you get there. So I don't want to spend too much time here. I've repeated myself several times, but I want to make sure those who are confused ask questions. Those who understand it, I hope you're good. And okay, so I covered this. A couple terminology items I did want to cover, and thankfully Facebook has streamlined Instagram's terminology so that we don't have as many terms as we do in the Facebook ads world. But there are a few key terms that are important. One are results. So results are kind of are akin to conversions in Google Analytics. So if you've watched me do any of the Google Analytics talks, the results are basically conversions. So what is an ad success? So for example, in the brand awareness space, when we have a view, just the fact that someone viewed it, that is a result. That is, someone has seen the ad that we put out. And so that's just a very easy item. But if we go over to conversions and we want website conversions as the result, then Facebook needs to track the Instagram post, me clicking on the call to action in the Instagram post, me being led to your website, me doing whatever you wanted me to do on your website, and ultimately coming to fruition there. And without all of that being done, that would not be a result. So we count results as success for doing all the things you want people to do associated with that ad. Okay, so it could be as simple as just looking at it, and it could be as complex as navigating to another website, to your mobile application, and doing something that leads to a conversion on the other side. Okay. Then we have reach and impressions. Reach are the unique individuals that basically see or interact and engage with your ads. Okay, so reach is different than impressions, because impressions are just the number of views that have been seen of the ad. Okay, but reach are unique individuals. It's a weird terminology, but reach are unique individuals. Impressions are just the number of times it's been viewed. And then ultimately we have cost per result. And this will all make sense when you look at the reports. We're not going to get in depth in the reports today, but when you look at the reports, you'll see these terms and it'll make a lot more sense. But the cost per result is, in essence, what you want to happen based on each conversion. So when an ad is successful, you have the goal achieved associated with that ad campaign, the cost associated with that one result is the cost per result. Okay, so those are the terms you'll need to get familiar with, and you'll be good there. Okay, so I did want to take kind of a detour here, because I think a lot of people think about advertising on the Facebook platform for Instagram and kind of forget that there is a whole community out there of people for which you can advertise directly without Facebook at all. And the idea here is that you find other businesses, other people who have Instagram followings, that is, they have a substantial number of followers, and substantial just means that it's enough that it's worth you getting in front of their audience. So it could be that it's a very specific niche or otherwise. So I really encourage you to not only look at your advertising budget in terms of advertising on Facebook, but also who are the Instagram influencers in your area that can bring traffic to your business by virtue of them having a strong audience. Now, each Instagrammer who has an audience and is considered kind of quote unquote an influencer, and that, like I said, could be other businesses with substantial followings, they have varying capabilities. So for example, if you have an account and you reach a particular level, you have the ability to create links for swiping up in Instagram stories, whereas a smaller account would not have that ability. So you need to know at what level these Instagrammers have access to certain things. So it does require just opening up that conversation with those folks and saying, hey, what is it that you can do as an Instagram influencer for my business? Can you drive clicks from your stories to my page? And they'll say, oh yeah, I can do that. Or no, I don't have enough followers yet. They haven't invited me into that program, and but I'm working on it. So maybe in 6 months revisit and we can do that, because if one of your major goals is to drive traffic to your website, then having the ability for them to swipe up and be able to access your website is pretty important. But if it's about driving traffic into your retail store, and you can get, say you have a yoga studio, and your yoga studio has a small product section in the front of the studio where you sell some health and wellness products or yoga mats or whatever, you can have, say, someone who is a fitness guru in your area, who maybe doesn't teach yoga but is a very active yoga practitioner and loves your studio. Well, there might be some simpatico there. Maybe you can barter yoga classes for him or her to go on and do a paid promotion and tell people about their love of your yoga studio and maybe the products. They can show the products that you sell in the store and talk about them. There are lots of things that you can do if you're creative about it. Again, you just have to be transparent. You need to let people know. That is, the Instagram influencer needs to let people know for FTC disclosure regulations that they are, they're being paid for the promotion, and there are different ways that you can do that. And there's even a little thing that allows you to be able to tag a post as being a sponsored post when you're an Instagram influencer. So just make sure that you're aware of the fact that you can kind of do all this advertising stuff without Facebook. And sometimes it's a lot cheaper because you're working directly with someone who is an individual. Maybe you even know them, and you can work out something that may be barter or a more substantial budget up front, but you're going to get a much more targeted audience and a much more tight-knit group of people, because that Instagram influencer has worked really hard to build that community. A couple things to keep in mind. You really need to determine your goals in conversion tracking, because otherwise, if you're off the Facebook platform, then none of this is being tracked. So you need to know how to track it yourself. So that means using the Google Tag Manager within Google Analytics and the Google Marketing Platform, using Bitly links so that you have some way to track what's going on when you're sending people there, or just asking people when they come into your store after you initiate an Instagram influencer's kind of partnership, making sure that your staff or you are asking people, well, how did you find us? And if they constantly say, oh, you know what, so-and-so, she did this amazing post video that showed how your product or service was going to help me, and so I decided to come in and check it out, then you can start to note the success of the campaign based on the number of people who drive traffic into the store, just by asking people manually, and then taking that data down and tracking it consistently. Make sure that you determine pricing up front with the Instagrammer that you're working with. It's just good maintenance. You want to have a good relationship with those people because they're influencers on social media. You don't want to rile these people up. You want to have a good relationship. So determine pricing up front. Good people can disagree and choose to not work with each other, but it's not good to have a lack of transparency and then someone to think that they're going to get paid something differently than they should have been and otherwise. Identify who provides the creatives. So for example, if you're doing an account takeover, in essence, the Instagrammer is going to take over your account for, say, a day, a week, whatever it is, and they're going to be posting all of the content to the site, then it's natural that they're going to be creating all of the content. They'll be posting the stories, they'll be taking the photos and so on and so forth, but they may need assistance in some of this. Maybe they need you to hire a photographer to do a photo shoot so they can have the requisite content. Maybe they need a videographer for doing all of this content. So make sure that you're working with them so that you're aware of all of this. I know this is a bit of a tangent from Instagram ads on the Facebook platform, but I feel like this can actually be really, really powerful for some small businesses who know the people they want to work with and how to kind of get around the system there. All right, so at this point, let's hop into the ads, but I wanted to just cover very quickly. I think I mentioned earlier that there are different Instagram ad types. So let's just talk about the ad types really quickly, and then I want to show you just briefly how the whole ad platform works. Again, I went into this in more depth in the Facebook Ads 101 workshop in webinar, so you can go in there and see all the granular details. But the the Instagram ads are really quite simple to create once we get into it, so you'll see. Okay, so we have stories ads, which are the Instagram stories that appear, when you open up the stories at the top of the Instagram application. You'll see the little circles, and the circles at the top are the stories. You click on a story, and the ads will appear between those stories. Then you have photos. Photos show up in the feed, and that's the main swiping up and down feed that you see there. And you can have photos. So you can have a single photo in the photo ads, or you can have multiple photos, and that's called a collection. We'll get there. You can have video ads. And then you can have carousel ads. Carousel ads are what I talked about earlier, when if you have a series of images that you swipe left to pan through several images. So if your best ad is going to be a narrative about something, you would have a carousel ad, because then you could show multiple photos or videos that tell the story, the narrative, very similar to Instagram stories, except the Instagram stories only show up in the Instagram stories section, whereas the carousel ads are in the feed. So you're capable of telling a narrative, some kind of beginning, middle, and end in carousel by having people swipe through and see the various items. And then finally, our collections. Collections are basically those gallery type posts where they have multiple photos and videos that display in kind of a grid, and then people can click on the individual images, and then they can open up and tell that part of the story of that particular ad. So that can be very useful if you're trying to convey say almost like a little storyboard. You can create kind of a storyboard, and that's the collection, and people can click on the different items and see that part of the story and make their way through. So just a different layout than the carousel ads in that way. Okay, so let's hop over to the ads manager, and let's just click on create ad. Okay, so at this point, you've got your campaign set up, or you don't. And what you're going to do then is you're going to create a new campaign or choose an existing campaign. In this particular case, we're going to choose a campaign because we don't have one, and we're just going to choose brand awareness for simplicity of what we're doing today. But in essence, once you choose brand awareness, it kind of explains to you what it's all about, and you want to then name the particular campaign that you're running. So in this particular case, let's call this Loudon Lollipops. Okay, so say you have a lollipop shop in Loudoun County, and you have brand awareness, Loudon Lollipops, and maybe you have several different you have Loudon Lollipops, maybe you have Loudon, snack bars, and Loudon candy canes, right? So this is the brand awareness campaign for Loudon Lollipops. And then in essence, we want to leave most of these settings alone unless Facebook is going to optimize the Instagram ads for us automatically. And then I always say, at least in the beginning, say yes to them. So in this case, they're going to optimize your campaign budget across all of your ad sets. That's usually a good idea, and you can choose what the number here is, but you can say whatever your daily budget is, and you can actually set a lifetime budget on a particular item as well. Particular types of ads, some ads will require a lifetime budget, and some will require a daily budget. I'm not going to get into the particulars there, but you'll see the information. If you set it, it will ask you, oh, this ad type requires a lifetime budget. So you'll need to set that in order to be able to go forward with it. And then we get to the campaign bid strategy. Something that people don't realize is that the whole Facebook ad platform is based on an auction. It's an automated digital interface, but it still is an auction. So when I put an ad onto Instagram, it's actually at the same time calculating pricing based on all of the other people who are putting ads on Instagram for the same audience at that time. And that's why I said with 2 million monthly advertisers, you still have a very small number of people who are of publishers who are putting out ads, and so you still have a pretty good chance of getting a high rate of return. That is, the cost per result will be lower today than it will probably be in 18 to 36 months. So you have a little bit more flexibility there that I think. Anyway, the idea here is that you can read the various information icons here, and they actually give you a lot of great information here. So as you're going through the ad, read these things. So where it says each bid strategy here for campaign bid strategy, there's a learn more button. You click on that learn more button, it'll take you out to the help article, and it really will educate you on how to do bid caps, how to set proper optimizations on those things so your ad sets are leveled out across your various campaigns. And it's just a very, very good and helpful way to learn about the system by going in and reading the various parts, okay? And there's advanced options. We're not going to go through those because this is just the very basics. Okay, so at this point, once we have chosen a campaign objective, and you can see that it tells us where we are based on the left-hand side panel. This is kind of, you check off each of the boxes and then you're ready to go, okay? And so we've chosen our objective, and now it's gonna have us choose audience, placement, and then our budget and schedule. So here we have the option of choosing a completely new custom or lookalike audience. We can also choose a saved audience that we have in the system, and this account is blank, right? So there's nothing in here, so there's no saved audience, but in my normal working account, I have about a dozen different saved audiences that I select among, and now I can just say, okay, I want to show these ads to these people, and then I click next, okay? But let's just, for the fun of it, let's set up our own ad set. We want to give a name, and see how the ad set is immediately showing US 18 plus, because that's the way the ad sets are supposed to be designed, is what's the target here? So in this case, since it's Loudon Lollipops, I like to still just put the name, this is just my convention, but Loudon Lollipops, and say, I want to only target people in Loudoun County, and I want to target females from, let's say, 18 to 45, right? Just for the sake of it. And so now I know that as I'm going through my audience, I'm going to set up the ad set, the audience within this ad set, to be only for those people, right? So in essence, I don't have a custom audience for this, and I'm not going to really be looking for that. But in terms of location, I do want to type in Loudoun, and there goes Loudoun County, Virginia, and you could just then choose Loudoun County, Virginia. And now what it's going to do is it's going to go, uh-oh, your audience is too specific for your ads to be shown. This is really, really helpful, because what Google does is it says, Google. What Facebook does is it says that if you're trying to put this Instagram ad out there, you're at a place where you're not going to get in front of enough people here to make it worth your while to put out the ad. Okay, so this is going to reach fewer than 1,000 people. So again, now I can say, okay, well, maybe what I need to do is say Virginia, and now it's going to say, okay, great, you're on a little bit on the high end in terms of broadness. What can you do to narrow this down? And so I can say, let's say if Northern Virginia is an option in here. No, it's not available in here. So let me choose a few of the Northern Virginia counties. So you can see how this becomes kind of a little bit of a guessing game, not guessing game, but you kind of play around with it until you have enough people in that. So I'm going to choose Arlington, Virginia. I'm going to go into here, and it says plus or minus 25 miles, and I'm going to say I want to, because I know this is going to increase my range enough so that I can let's just say 70-mile radius, right? So, I meant to say 70 miles. And so in a 70-mile radius, which it did not do, let's just set it to 50. Here we go. So now it's showing me a radius of Arlington County, 50-mile radius, and in reality, though, I really want to only focus on Northern Virginia. So in order for me to do that, what I need to do now is exclude Maryland, no offense against the Marylanders, and the DC folks, right? So anyone in Washington D.C., I don't want them to have to come over the river and drive all the way to Loudoun County for my lollipops. Okay, so what I've done now, in essence, is I have targeted those folks in Northern Virginia by creating a radius where I'm capturing the people I want and excluding the people that are outside of that radius. So no Marylanders, no Washingtonians are going to be able to see this ad, but it is going to show me all the people that fit into that circle that are really in Northern Virginia. So it's going to show me that result, and voila, Facebook is telling me here that it's going to show me a 2.2 million people is the reach, and it's right in that good middle ground center for who I'm trying to show this to. So someone in Arlington, if they really like my lollipops, they're going to come out to Loudoun County for it, and someone who's in Richmond probably is not. So we got a good size audience for this. At this point, you can see that we have 18 to 65 registered, but I'm looking for 18 to 45. And so again, I'm shrinking that. I'm still green, still good, and I'm choosing women, and that should just about have the population, and it just about does. Perfect. And so we're at 700,000, and we're still green. Okay. At this point, I don't really need to care about language or any other kinds of detailed audience targeting, but know that you can. Okay, I don't want to get into too much of the details here, but you have a lot of options here in terms of that, but just the most basic stuff. Again, you're going to do the recommended items, so just automatic placements if you wanted this to show against all of them. If you did not, then you would change the placements to it all. In our case, we're going to turn off all of these because we actually only want Instagram. Okay, so we're going to turn off all the networks but Instagram. And in this case, let's just create a feed post. Okay, so what just happened? It's not letting me choose just feed, but that's fine. We'll just go with it. So here we're doing a feed post, and we're now doing a story post because it won't let me not do it. All right, so we've chosen Instagram. And now what we're going to do is look again at the audience size. Notice that the audience size now is 500,000, right? So there were 700,000. We now chose a specific platform, and we're still green. We still are being shown to 500,000 people for those people who are on Instagram. Okay, we can choose all mobile devices, or we can choose specific ones. Okay, and I'm just going to choose all for this case. If I was doing video, I would check only when connected to Wi-Fi. So if I was showing an Instagram ad that was a video, I would want to make sure this was on Wi-Fi only, because then it'll be a better experience and people won't watch the ad and have a bad experience and therefore have a bad representation of the brand. Okay, here you can set budget and schedule, and so here you have the opportunities to say if you have a discount. Say I'm selling my lollipops for the next week for 50% off. I could set a start and end date for when the ad goes live, for when the sale goes on, and when the sale goes off. And you can have contiguous ones. So you could have a series of ads that are running inside of an ad set that show one after the other. One turns on, one turns off, one turns on, one turns off in succession. Okay, we go click on continue. And at this point, we then get to the Instagram ads section where we choose the content and the makeup of the actual ads themselves. Okay, so in this particular space, we have the ability to choose, let's see, a specific Instagram account. Oh yeah, this is a brand new account, so it's not going to show me my Instagram profile, obviously. But here, if I had an Instagram account, it will then give me the ability to drop down and select my Instagram account, and then I would be able to choose among the various formats. In this particular case, for a brand awareness where I am showing a feed or a story post, it's going to give me the option of the carousel or single image to be able to display for it, and then I'd be able to go ahead and select the image or the videos for those. And what's really great is that as you make your way through, it actually shows you the recommendations for the sizes of things. Okay, so here you can see that this is telling me that it's 1080 by 1080 for a a single image, and that's the recommended size. It should be in JPEG or PNG, and it will also sometimes tell you max file size, because say if you upload a video, the max video size is going to be for, I think it's 4. It doesn't matter. You'll see it. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but the point is that you'll have maximum file sizes listed. It'll tell you that you can create X number of ads at no additional cost. In this particular case, I can create up to 6 ads here with no additional cost, and they will rotate those ads in that particular ad set. So that's really great. And then it shows me the ad as it's displayed. So here you can say, you can see that this is Alexandria Small Business Development Center image that got pulled in, and so you have the text of the ad, which you can change, and then it will live display and change here. So you can actually see all the things that are changing as you are doing it. Couple of brief items, and then I know we're running out of time, but if I put in here, say I am doing this for the SBDC, and I want to promote their events page. Okay, so here is the URL for the events page, but I don't want to confuse people from the Learn More button. So let's say here, let's see. What do we want it to say? Yeah, learn more is fine. Okay, so you can see that the call to action is learn more. But instead of Alexandria SBDC, SBDC.org, instead of that being the URL that shows up when someone hovers over this, I'm actually going to change the display link so that it's actually just Alexandria SBDC.org. Okay, and just so you know that you can actually have a different display link, so that when I do hover over this, it's actually going to show a different URL than the one that's up there, and you just can't, don't ever direct people anywhere they don't and shouldn't belong, or put, a different domain here that's, don't try and fool people. But just for simplicity's sake here, I put Alexandria SBDC.org because I just want it to not be confusing to people. They can click on events on the main page, but if they click on learn more, they're going to be taken to the events page. So just so you're aware, okay? And so at that point, you're going to confirm the ad, and then voila, it will then be taken to the Facebook algorithm, and it will then display your first ad. The ad will then start running, and you'll be good to go. I am going to hop us back over to the final slide, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Tracy, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, wow, a lot of really good information. I'm going to go ahead, since we're already after the hour, close out the webinar, and then we'll go to, we have quite a few questions. Thank you for participating today. Today's webinar was recorded and it'll be posted on the Virginia SBDC website under live webinars and recordings. That's where all of our past webinars are. I know several people had asked in the question where they could find the Facebook webinar that Ray was referring to, and you can certainly find that on that page. Tomorrow you'll be receiving a follow-up email on this webinar. There'll be an evaluation link in the email. Please help us to continue to improve our training by taking the time to fill out that evaluation. I've also posted it in the chat window if you'd like to fill it out now. And our next webinar is on April 4th, and it's Snapchat Marketing Strategies for Small Businesses. All right. So one of the questions, why should we have a target audience? Isn't it better to cast it out to more people and not limit yourself?
Oh, that's a great question, and the point is do you have unlimited dollars? If you cast a wide net, you are targeting everyone and no one. And so because of the nature of Facebook targeting, and the same thing applies with Google Ads and other online advertising, the reality is that if you know who your audience is, you will spend less dollars getting in front of them than if you cast your net too widely. For example, if you sell, say, cigarettes, well, you can't on the Facebook platform show it to children, but it would be a waste to show, say you have a local adult language learning center. Okay, well, why would you show that to 13-year-olds? Right? The point is that audiences help you define the people, because if you're showing it to 13-year-olds and that's not your customer, then that's wasted dollars. Okay, so that's the base level reason for audiences. And then the other side is that if you know who your customer is, then the ads that you create can be much more targeted to those people. It can be tailored to be more effective. But if you just show a generic ad to everyone, then most people will be turned off by that. But if you show highly targeted ads to very specific people that you know will love that ad, then those people will be turned on emotionally and will then engage with the content and hopefully buy from you.
Is there a place to find all the possible target categories so you don't miss any?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Does it mean target audiences? I would say that if you go to business.instagram.com, if you hover over the little advertising button, you'll see all the information for the various ads and audience. All the campaign options. And then once you are inside of the actual ad creation process, you can actually drop down and see all of the various audience targeting options. And again, if you go back to the Facebook Advertising 101, I go into a little bit more depth because I had the time to go through all the various audience options that are out there. So maybe that will be more helpful to you. But I don't know of a list of all of the various targets published. Maybe there's one in the Facebook help section. But if you have a specific one about a specific audience you want to reach out to, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to answer you and tell you, yes, that's available.
Different services might have different target markets. Would it be better to have different accounts to different target audiences for different target audiences?
No, those would be different campaigns. The campaign would be the level at which so if you have a different service line and those have different audiences, then those would be on the campaign level. You would create different campaigns, but do not create separate accounts, because remember, you're managing a budget, and so you can set a lifetime budget or a maximum budget on the entire account. And so unless for some reason you ran a different service, which is actually my case. I have separate divisions and I run them as almost as independent companies, right? And so those are separate accounts, but I'm the 0.001% of businesses in terms of how that should be structured and managed. It's a lot more complicated to run multiple accounts, and you can't see that data together. So when you're looking at reports, then these things all get disconnected. So I would highly recommend that you actually just create campaigns within one account. Even if the service lines are completely dissimilar, if they're under the same company, I just create separate campaigns.
Can lookalike and custom audiences be combined? I've struggled to use more than one custom audience for ad campaigns.
Only in including or excluding. So you can use one lookalike audience and one custom audience, and that's usually going to be, well, it depends on how many, the size of that lookalike or custom audience, and that really is the major determinant, is how big is the lookalike audience or how small is the custom audience, whatever. But you can use the other for excluding a lookalike or custom audience, but you generally will only want to use one, and that's usually a good indicator for an ad set, is that you're going to be looking at lookalike audiences, and an ad set is going to be looking for those people. So think of that as an ad set level item, and so each ad you're running is going to be looking at really probably only one lookalike audience, and maybe excluding one lookalike or custom audience, most likely a custom audience, because you know why you don't want them to be seen. So you're going to use that lookalike or custom audience with one excluded per ad, and then you can have multiple of those types of ads within the same ad set.
So a follow-up, he says, I want to use our email list and then add lookalike people.
Yes, absolutely. So you can upload your email address list to your as a custom audience, and then in the inclusion space, you want to include those people that are lookalikes. So I think if I'm hearing you correctly, that's what you want to do. Otherwise, just run. You can literally just duplicate that ad and run the same ad for the lookalike audience and call it a day. You know, like you don't get too wrapped up in the fact that it's not a neat little bow and only one ad running all of those things, because inside the custom reports you can just take those two and look at them together.
How long should a video be? 30 seconds, 6 seconds?
So it depends on the content you're trying to convey. So in the Instagram stories, you are limited in the length of those videos to the 10-second rule within. That's not true. I think you're in the ads are allowed 15 seconds, I believe. You know, most people think, well, I'm going to take advantage of all of those seconds that I'm buying, right? But that's not necessarily the case. You should really think about the message you're trying to convey and how long will that take to convey both the motion and emotion of that particular ad. What is the motion that you're seeing? Is that changing text? Is that someone going from happy to sad or sad to happy, presumably, if you want them to show a problem, show a solution? You can tell and dictate what the motion and emotion is necessary, but don't think necessarily about specific time, because we've actually seen in the data that ones that are fully 15 seconds, ones that are 2 to 3 seconds, and then aggregated with a whole bunch of other story ads can be very effective. So it's not necessarily about the length of it, but it's about the quality of the message that you're trying to send. So that's in Instagram stories. In the feed, then you can be a little bit more, you could be a little bit longer in the tooth, so to speak, with regard to the length of the video. But I would certainly, if you watch the video and at any point in your mind you get distracted or something is dull, that needs to be cut out. And you need to cut until the essence of what you're trying to convey is there and it's highly emotive. So don't think about length, think about the emotion, what's going to hook me, and what's going to make me want to do what you want me to do in that ad.
Great. What are your thoughts about reposting another business or customer's posts?
So that's not allowed in ads. So that's not allowed in ads. If you're talking about on the content side of reposting within stories or reposting within the feed itself, as long as you're giving appropriate credit, like using a tool like Repost. Repost is an app that allows you to properly give credit to people and repost their content and curate that content. I would always say that if you're going to do something like that, then I would make sure that you provide additional commentary or reasoning for why you're reposting that content, and then you're good to go. But in the ad side, that's a no. But in the content side, the organic side, sure, if it's appropriate.
Does the subscribe banner always refer to the content above it?
Yes.
What is swipe up and how is it achieved?
Sure. Okay. So when you're, this is one of those cases where if you are not using Instagram, do not run an Instagram ad. Just do not do it. You must create an Instagram account and spend some time with Instagram. And I know that some of you listening and watching are saying, well, I don't ever want to be on Instagram when I don't have to, and that's totally understandable. Same thing with me and Facebook. I don't want to be on Facebook unless I have to, but I have to use it enough so I know what it looks like and what it feels like to interact and engage with the platform. So I would highly recommend that you go out there and follow a couple people, follow maybe a couple family members who are techie and love taking selfies, and really play with the platform a little bit so that you can see what this is. Now, to the specific question, swiping up means that when you're in an Instagram story is a full screen image or video, and of course an image is an image it shows and displays for 10 seconds, and a video can last as long as those 10 seconds. And so you can have as many story posts as you want in a 24-hour time period, and after the 24 hours, each of those story posts disappears. So if I post 10 items to my stories right now, at the end of 24 hours tomorrow, they will all disappear in order, okay? So when you open up a story post, like I said, it's a full screen displayed image or video. If you have it activated, that is, you pay for the ability to do so through Instagram ads, or if you're an Instagram influencer and your account has been approved for doing so, swiping up means you literally take your finger and you swipe up from the bottom of the screen upward, and it takes you to the link that the person who published the story post has directed you to. So you're actually capable of putting links, because in Instagram, you can't put links anywhere in posts. Like if you put a link in a description, it's just text, so it doesn't do anything. You can't click on it, so it's almost useless. So the swipe up is basically the click here button in the Instagram stories environment.
Great. Last question. I already have created a Facebook ad for my business Facebook page, but apparently don't have an actual ad account. When I click the ad button, would I want to add an ad account, request access to an ad account, or create a new ad account?
In your particular case, you're going to be creating a new ad account. So if there are a class of Facebook pages where Facebook allowed you to kind of boost and promote posts without creating the Facebook Ads Manager account. So in your case, you will be creating a new Ads Manager account. I would just take it as just like we started from the top today. You're gonna open up Facebook Ads Manager, create the account. You're gonna create a new account. Make sure that when you go in, again, go back to the Facebook Ads 101 webinar where we talked about this already, which is, make sure you set the right time zone, because then when you're looking at reports, you're going to see all the wrong time zones if you're in Eastern time, as we are, and you're looking at, so it sets you up as Pacific time because that's where Facebook is headquartered, but you should really have your time zone set. Make sure that you have the appropriate, budget set and structure your account according to the way in which you want it to be set up. But yeah, so start right from the scratch, and you'll start with a new account.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for participating in today's webinar, and we look forward to see you on April 4th.